Awesome Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Awesome Rider here with my review of the first basic wave of figures for Into the Spider-Verse. I've been kind of on a Spider-Man kick lately, and I'm excited for the new movie, so I picked a couple things up, decided, why not throw a few reviews up, fitting into the schedule. But I'm going over the figures first. These are kind of they're like these weird half-measure figures, I always call them. Hasbro does these a lot in their lines, like they're minimally articulated and decently-ish detailed, just kind of odd figures. I haven't really picked up very many of them up, but this first wave includes SpiderGwen, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man, actually the one I'm most excited for because it's Nick Miller Spider-Man, and then Prowler. And they each have like a little bit of an accessory to him, as you can see. Let's start with Miles, since he's the star of the show. I didn't mean to faceplant you there when I said that, buddy. But yes, these are really weird little figures. He comes with like this electric-looking webbing, which is just like a little net you put on them, and yeah, that's a thing. But as far as the figure goes, they actually kind of, in a way, remind me of the Power Rangers, or the Super Sentai and Kamen Rider vinyls, where they're like fine enough figures detail-wise. Like, they get the point across, they're not the greatest, but they do an okay job. He's a little bit basic for sure. I kind of wish there was the hoodie version of it, because I really like that version. But yeah, like the details on him are very okay, I think this line is very obviously mainly for kids, so I think they're not going to notice as much, but I think they do an okay job at it. My main problem with these figures, at least in his case, is the weird proportions. Like, his legs feel way too long. Like, with this one here, I actually think is not so bad because he's a bit taller, and I think I actually like they kind of got a bit of the scale there. But for this just looks weirdly wrong. Like, it kind of reminds me of those giant Nutcracker figures, but in just a small regular figure. And articulation-wise, you basically have a decent-ish range on the arms. Like, you can go all the way around, you can go in and out here, you have a single elbow joint, you got some swiveling, you can move his head 360 around creepy exorcist stuff, a little bit up and down, which is nice. Actually, pretty decently up and down, but that's nice because it gives a little bit of a personality. The legs, you can only move back and forth it's only a little bit. And here's the thing is, I don't necessarily mind that. A minimally articulated figure, again, something that kids might not have a problem with. I bring it up because even when I was a kid, I liked articulated figures. I'm sure there's some kids that do as well. But I'm also sure there's kids that don't really care. But I feel like with Spider-Man figures, it's more important to be more articulated because he's such a dynamic character. Like, if you're playing with it, you're going to want to have him at least be able to bend his knees. That's all I'm asking. Like, would it be cool if you could have a nice ball joint here and do some crazy Spider-Man poses? Sure. But at least be able to bend the knees. Like, maybe for something like Iron Man, that's okay, because you can just do Hall of Armors or have him flying. But with Spider-Man, it comes across as weird that his legs are so stiff. But yeah, and his hands here, you have this one permanently fixed in web shooting pose, and this one just like getting ready to hold something. It's like a holding weapons hand, but doesn't really have a weapon. Alright, now here we have Nick Miller Spider-Man. Again, probably my favorite of the bunch, just because I think Nick Miller Spider-Man's kind of amazing. Like, I hope they do a better figure of it I can pick up, but for now I'm fine with this. It's just kind of like I want Nicolas Cage Spider-Man Noir, which is cool. But again, the details on it are passable. I think the proportions for like the odd bit of this figure work out better. Just because he's taller, so it doesn't seem as weird. I think they did a pretty good job on like nailing the animation style for both of these. I feel like his in particular, just because it's kind of got that look that just really reminds me of the trailer. And he's got this little web shooting effect, which kind of attaches like an actual web shooter, so it's like a cuff. So again, he's got actually just a closed fist and then permanent web shooting hands. I kind of prefer that to this because it's like, I guess you could like have him hanging off something, but like, what are you holding? All right, now we got SpiderGwen. She's got like a fancy, almost a tarp, but fancy like ribbon web shooter that's very similar to the way Peter's goes on, where you just snap it on there, so that's easy to do. She's also got the holding hand. I guess you're gonna want to have her and Miles, splaying off of something, but Peter's just gonna have an angry closed fist. Same deal here, very passable, decent-ish details. Same articulation points to it, the legs are still stiff. The proportions on it aren't too bad. I feel like she still has that weird tall leg thing going. I guess I noticed it more on Miles for some reason, but yeah, it's a little bit weird. You could sort of pull the hoodie off if you wanted to, or if you want to like super detach the head, which is kind of a thing. But yeah, she's fine. Not like, damn, she's fine, but like, the figure is fine. All right, here we have Prowler. These bits are actually kind of cool. You attach them to the bottom and it creates kind of like a booster effect, which I think is kind of neat. Probably my favorite of the effects, if I'm being honest. They also kind of look like little pumpkin bombs from Green Goblin. But he's pretty decent too, I would say. He doesn't have the leg articulation, but with him, I mean, granted, would he look better being able to do more dynamic poses to, you know, pose or fight with these guys? Sure, but at least with him, like, I'm more okay with him just standing there like, here, I'm an imposing villain. I'm gonna stand like this with my cape. So yeah, I'm more okay with him not having the legs bend. He does have a bit of that weird lankiness going with him too, but because he's like a taller adult character, it just comes across as less weird for me, so I don't have as huge of a problem with it. But yeah, details on him are pretty decent too. I think they did a pretty good job on the gloves. The articulation gives him a little personality. I really like the material they used for the cape. Like, it's solid, it doesn't feel like it's gonna break, but it's also kind of light. Like, I really actually like it quite a bit. Like, I hope they use it on more things. But yeah, that's pretty much it for these. Overall, these are very basic figures. These are kind of just like the cheaper, well, basic figures. So I think, you know, a lot of kids will like them, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't keep making this figure style for all the Marvel things. But, you know, if you're a collector, unless you really just want your Nick Miller Spider-Man, I would definitely wait for something else. They're just very average figures. They're not the best thing ever, but they're not the worst thing ever. Definitely very middling figures. Anyway, that's about it. Until next time, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell to get the notifications for all my videos. Till next time, Dawson Rider, signing out.